Hey everyone! Okay, so, just caught the end of the post-credits scene. Rosemary Winters, Ethan is dead. Um, we saw a cutscene of Rose. I was talking about who this agent was. If you're not sure, if you want to know about that, go and watch the last 10-15 minutes of the last video to get caught up. But yeah, continuing. So, why do I have a problem with the 18? And by the way, I should point out, for the record, I'm saying 18 years for the gap because I mean, you could say 16, but just for the sake of someone becoming an adult, depending on where you are in the world, 18 general minimum age for being an adult. Just saying. I mean, yeah, I'm not saying you can't be considered an adult technically. Depending on how you grow up at 15. I'm just saying for a general base age 18, just for the sake of it. So we're going to go through the Baker report, but I want to go through, just talk about something first. I have a big issue with the 18-year gap. In one way, it kind of makes sense because it would also, there is an irony almost in the, well, if I'm using it in the right way, but from Revelations 2, you learn about, and apologies for spoiler alert, but if you haven't already played the game, but Volt's a character called Alex Wesker. Alex Wesker is one of these only survivors and people to complete the Wesker project, which, if I recall correctly, is from the Arclay Mountains facility, or the Arclay Mansion. I'm pretty sure that's where it was. But it was the Wesker program. Her name is not Wesker, it's something else, but she's named Alex and Albert. Both went through the Wesker project, the Wesker program, and the Wesker project. They both survived, the best you could call it. Both went different paths. You learn Alex Wesker basically operates out of an island. It was called Island 46 from Revelations 2. I played it. I found a really cool game. I'm going to go over it at some point on my channel. But she was like Albert Wesker. Alex Wesker was basically bleeding Spencer's wealth dry. I mean, you gotta understand, by this point, Albert's killed Spencer. It doesn't mean that his wealth is gone necessarily, and they're just both bleeding him dry of wealth. That's literally what I've been doing the whole damn time, and other stuff. She's going the whole route of genetic manipulation, bioweaponry, her own thing, right? On an island. It's called Island 46, her facility. That's what it was called. There's some documents. Why do I reference Alex Wesker? Because at the end of Revelations 2, she transplants her mind into the body of a little girl who was rescued by Barry, Claire, and Moira. Moira Burton, Barry's daughter. Now, there's two different ways you can go to the ending, but basically the one I believe is the way the game is supposed to happen in the game is that Alex is rescued. Through that young girl is brought back, but I don't believe they actually realize that her mind's been transplanted to this young girl, and they're just living that normal life, so to speak, and she grows up. Now, if you think about it, the timeline would... I mean, so let's say this girl is... I don't know. Let's say she's... Okay, let's go at 10 years old. I'm not really sure how old that girl was. I forgot their name now, but let's just say she's 10 years old for the sake of argument, right? Probably somewhere between 8 and 10. Let's say 10. 18 years on, she's 28. She could... Alex could have full control of her by then. And this would start Alex's, I suppose, revival process. And I think the irony could be... Well, I don't think irony is the right, but I'm just using that context of... if you think about... If Alex Wesker was related or linked to the connections, or in charge of the connections, or... maybe even maybe not establishes the connections. I suppose probably not. or she's part of the connections, let's say. So that could link that side of the story to being Alex's comeback and revival, where she's infiltrated the BSA Europe HQ, all this stuff, she's using or manufacturing bioweapons there. Where do I have the big problem with that? Okay, aging is, and I'm just saying as a general idea of it. I mean, would you go for a timeline more than 10 years in a story when, bear something in mind, right? You have playable characters which we haven't seen the next step from, because there's been no anime movies that I've seen since Vendetta, which starred Rebecca, Chris, and Leon. And Glenn Aries, I think it was called, who basically picked up the pieces from Neo Umbrella's Remnants and Tricell. As far as I recall, because I watched the movie a few months ago to get my reminder, but I read up some fandom on the RE wiki and all that, so just to try and put some pieces together. So I'm kind of taking reference from those, but so Glenn Aries has developed his own comeback. He partnered, according to the wiki, partnered with the Los Illuminados. How accurate that is, but it would make sense for him having access to all these genetic abilities. He survived an assassination attempt. Excuse me. So, and he managed to bring back through genetic engineering his brother-in-law, brother-in-law, I believe it is, that was Gomez and Maria Gomez, his brother-in-law's daughter. I think it's actually his brother, so Maria. And I probably should have said spoiler alert, I do apologize. But yeah, spoiler alert. So at the end, Maria is the only one left standing, and she vows straight revenge. I can't remember the name of Glenn's company, but it would make perfect sense if that was either the head of the Connections or she was a member of the Connections. I'm just trying to now. I'm trying to pull links together. So you know what I'm saying? This is that playable characters we haven't seen much from yet that are perfectly possible in the game or a movie to explain stuff ever since then. There's been all quietness, right? Leon has been sobered up, basically being given a very, very stern talk by Rebecca. Yes, Rebecca Chambers, who's again taking references from the RE wiki and all that, but it basically joined BSA in a consultancy role for researcher, which makes perfect sense. Leon's doing his own thing, is kind of basically freelance at this point, but he's he's basically, just the he's kind of like Rebecca in the sense that, and Barry in the sense that, they're all part of, even though they're not the founding members of the BSAA, like the founding 9 or 11 or whatever it was that actually founded the BSAA, like in terms of the operatives, the specialists. But like Leon is basically counted as one of them. He knows them all. He's on those sort of terms with, especially with Claire, Chris, all these Rebecca. Like he can basically call them for assistance. They'll just come. It's like, dude, it's like C-Virus, T-G, I need you. They're like, where and when will be there. There's no questions asked. They do reinforce each other like that. Leon's sobered up, and he's ready to take the next journey with him, it looks like. And they're in a helicopter at the end of Vendetta with Chris, and he's still part of the BSA then. Chris is still part of the BSA, I should point out. Unless an incident report tells me otherwise, Chris belongs to the BSA. He's still an operative. He's contracted. I think a lot of people might have missed this. He was contracted out to Blue. I'm just calling him Blue Umbrella because of the blue symbol with the umbrella and all that. He's contracted out to Blue Umbrella. He's not owned by Blue Umbrella. He still belongs to the BSA. Whether he's gone rogue, whatever the hell it is, we'll probably find this report if we do at all. For all intents and purposes, until I find otherwise, he still belongs to the BSA. He's still one of the founding specialist members. So, for him to call an attack on the BSA is unlike him, to say the least. In fact, it contradicts who Chris is in that sense. Even I know he's gone through his paranoid stages with RE5. No excuse, because he gets it. He revitalizes himself after that captain, that lieutenant, whoever it was, from RE5 died. And Chris gets that revitalized spirit, and he's going strong as a captain, right? This is the military side of the BSA. And it kind of, I know I'm kind of going to trying to explain these backgrounds, these references in these games and movies and all that, but, Rebecca is still consultant researcher, Leon is sober, they're all in the same chopper, the BSA, with Chris is still part of them. This is roughly 3 years. So this is actually before the Dolby incident. So, let's say 4 years, for the sake of argument, right? This is before. Jill is still alive. Now, we're going to assume, so Barry, I believe, is part of the BSA, probably more consultancy role, as far as I'm away from the wiki, RE wiki. Moira is probably being trained by Claire after from Revelations 2 to become inducted. And I know this kind of sound like, I know, but hold on, but Claire's part of TerraSave. Doesn't matter. Claire is one of those people where she diverted to her own thing. Claire can, I'm serious, Claire can call on Rebecca, Chris, Jill, Barry, bloody Moira. She can call on any of the founding 11. And they will come and help her, and she will do like. I don't give her two shits if she's from TerraSave or FB, whatever the hell. She is as much she is as much linked. She's like Leon in the sense of she may not be an active member of the BSA, but she's as good as a founding member for all intents and purposes. And she just went her own way. If I recall, it's just so she. I can't remember if it was so she could prove herself, or it was a falling out between her and Chris. I can't exactly remember, but they still care about each other, And she goes to TerraSave to go and do some good there. Moira gets joined into that, but that whole thing falls apart in that sense in Revelations 2 to some extent. They're living their own life. I'm assuming it's under the guidance protection of the BSA. I mean, they're hiding one of the daughters. I mean, they're trying to just live their own life, but they can easily be recruited back in. Jill and Barry are still at BSA. Barry might have retired by this point. Jill is still active. And I know you're thinking, so how's this all linked into the 10-year gap? What's this? Okay. Ada as well. Ada's still alive? You've got too many other pieces on the board with stories that, I can understand to a 5-year gap, fine. When you go past the 10-year point, it goes to 10-year point and more in a game lore, trying to, jump to the next point, introducing a character as an adult for all intents and purposes, without even trying to suggest another, a possible. I mean, sure. They suggested a background to BSA Europe HQ. I understand that. The problem is that no one is near there. As far as I'm aware, none of the founding 11 are near there. So, unless Jill's being transferred there, none of the founding 11 are anywhere near the Europe facility. So, which means that you're having to go, that all members have to cross continents. Ada might be in Europe for all we know. But in terms of for the BSA and their associated allies and whatever operatives, they're nowhere near bloody Europe. I mean, Chris, for this game, Chris is the only person that's in Europe, for all intents and purposes. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm putting it all out there, just discussing openly, put my thoughts out there before I read this report, and if there's any change, I can incorporate them into that. But there's too big a gap to not give some form of indication as to the whereabouts of these characters. Like, 18 years is a huge amount of time to just discard Jill, Moira, Claire, Leon. I mean, you've got too many characters that are still in play to not give indication as to what the hell's going on. It's like it's almost like they put the indication for RE9, although Revelations 3 has got to come first. If Revelations 3 does not come before RE9, there's something seriously wrong with Capcom and RE lore. There just is. There's too many other characters have to either have conclusions or links directly to Rose and this story and the connections in general. Connections. Miranda, we don't know anything about her past. We need to learn about that. There was so much in the dark. Another big issue I have. How the living hell does Ethan was blown up? For all intents and purposes, he's dead. They did not rescue his coat. I'm pretty certain that Rose is wearing Ethan's jacket. Either she got a jacket to symbolic reference, she got another jacket to look identical and symbolic reference. Fine, no problems there. You can't bullshit it and say, oh, that's Ethan's jacket, because he's dead. He was blown up, he was wearing his jacket. There's no way in hell, like, either they've pieced together the bloody ashes. When fabric goes to a fire, it disintegrates, basically. Depending on the fabric, but it basically turns to ash and disintegrates. You can't rebuild it. That can't be Ethan's jacket. It must be a lookalike. Because if they're going to bullshit us and say, oh, that's Ethan's jacket, and then he's alive after that, considering he was basically dying at the end, you're screwing with so much lore. You are. You're basically saying, oh, we're going to force Ethan to stay alive. Why? It just said at the end of the game, oh, this is the conclusion to Ethan's story. You can't just go ahead and say, oh, now Ethan's like, oh, his jacket's still around. I don't care what game logic you use, that's not possible. That somehow the jacket's grown invisibility, grabbed legs, and just hopped on the plane. That's the only way that's possible. And I know that sounds kind of hilarious, but I'm just saying. My God, there's too many plot points to pull through. But anyway, we're going to start with the Baker Incident report, which you get with the Deluxe Edition, or I believe as you complete the game anywhere in any difficulty. So yeah, there's 80 pages, a fair amount to go through. I really hope we get a bunch of clarification on things, so let's begin without further ado. I'll just hydrate. I just want to put my thoughts out there verbally, so you're on the same page, that you understand what page I'm on, where my mind is at. Okay, let's dive in. This report depicts my investigation into the events after the incident at the Baker's residence. The Baker incident, July 2017. A number of people lost their lives at the residence in the middle of the American countryside. It was a truly horrifying tragedy. I still don't remember the exact number of victims. Two survivors, husband and wife Ethan and Mia Winters, were able to shed some light on the events which have shook the world, but there was a cover-up and the Winters vanished. Why am I not surprised with the cover-up? Excuse me. There is someone or something powerful acting behind the scenes. I just know it. I decided to investigate, to follow the breadcrumbs of what happened after. How could I be so sure? Because I'm someone who was there. Oh, it's this Zoe! She's the only person who would have survived. Unless Jack Baker's doing this, but someone who actually cares would be Zoe. Must be Zoe's doing this, okay. First of all, how was this incident reported upon its discovery by the world? Let's take a look at some newspaper clippings from that time to see how the news was manipulated. Number 1. Discovery of the incident. The Dolby Daily, July 22nd, 2017. Family of 4 found dead in Dolby. Dolby County Sheriff's Office reported that the Baker family was found dead in their home in northern Dolby on the 21st July. The surrounding details are currently unknown apart from the deaths of Jack Baker, his wife Marguerite, their son Lucas, and daughter Zoe. Deputy Sheriff Dave Anderson has also been missing since the 19th. According to Deputy Sheriff Riley Whiteford, who visited the Baker's residence around the time of this disappearance. Social media posts from the 22nd. The thing with the dead family wasn't that where the giant black monster was? You think they were eaten by that thing? No way! It's not some cheesy horror movie. Old man Jack did some crazy stuff. I remember him getting into lots of fights. Oh yeah, okay. He probably killed the whole family, even and then offed himself. Transcript of complaint to the county sheriff's office. I don't believe it. It's been 2 days already, but you haven't reported anything else. Was it a murder? An accident? Suicide? And what's with the National Guard selling the place off? What are you all hiding? Very little was reported shortly after the Baker incident was discovered, leading to a rapid spread of rumors and speculation. The Bakers were completely isolated from the rest of the community, and sealing off the entire area around the homestead around the home set things in motion. To be fair, if there's a virus or contagion, they've got to seal the damn area off for quarantine purposes regardless. So it's kind of a safety thing, but the media lying doesn't help stuff or fabrication. I recall there was a lot of public pressure on the press for information. I'm not surprised. I admit that at the time I was being held in quarantine by a certain organization and couldn't see any of the news for myself. They finally allowed me to watch the TV a few days after, and I was flabbergasted by the stark difference between the reports and reality. Cover up. Chapter 2. Dolby Daily, June 30, 17. Sheriff's office say Baker family killed by natural gas. Of course. In a follow-up on the deaths of the Baker family on July 21st, the Dolby County Sheriff's Office stated, it's highly likely that the deaths were caused by a hydrogen sulfide leak. Wow. The local area is surrounded by wetlands, which combined with a concentration of pollution could have led to the build-up of toxic gas that claimed the lives of the Baker family. The leak has been blocked, however, the authorities have sealed off the area in order to prevent any further accidents. The victims included were deceased Jack, Marguerite, Lucas. What do you mean? Zoe's alive! At least I'm almost certain she's alive. Unless the deal's... I'm pretty sure Zoe's alive. Unless she's just in quarantine. Or at least that's what they're saying. You know, claiming. Unless that's... I'm pretty sure Zoe is alive, just... It's more like part of quarantine, so they won't release her name officially. Anyway. Dave Anderson, so Deputy Anderson, Clancy, Andre, and Peter. Injured the Winters. Ethan, Mia. Media post, July 30, 17. Toxic hydrogen sulfide gas? They're kidding, right? I heard there were soldiers, tanks, helicopters, the whole shebang would have happened. The government's up to this, that's for sure. And here with the conspiracy theorists, a bunch of nutjobs like you come out of the woodwork during the Raccoon City incident too. But there was that black monster, and that satellite photo of the shipwreck. You have to admit something is fishy. Magazine Inspector. Oh, the Inspector, possibly magazine. An interview with Sally Baldwin, Professor of Geological Sciences at Minton University. Interviewer. So you don't agree with the reports of the Sheriff's Office that it was a natural gas leak? Baldwin. We can't rule out it completely, but it's very unusual. But it's very unusual, all things considered. Hydrogen sulfide builds up in areas that are where there are lots of volcanic activity. The town of Dolby, however, has no volcanic activity anywhere in the area. My geological survey in 1998 revealed absolutely no hydrogen sulfide in the area. A tragic natural gas leak. That was the official stance on the Baker incident. But this is a complete fabrication. Nothing about the murders in the house, nothing about the terrifying monsters stalked the halls and lived within its walls. It's evident that someone was keeping the truth hidden. The name that surprised me most was the fact that my name was on list of victims, because they pulled during quarantines. They didn't want to release it officially because they thought the media would probably scale after, which safety again, but anyway. The organization still had been quarantined. I'm assuming this is the BSA still, unless this is Blue Umbrella doing their thing. I was terrified the whole thing would come to an end with me actually being among the deceased. Thankfully, it was a needless fear. The organization gave me a new identity and let me go. Oh, okay. I guess they figured I was harmless and didn't know anything else. I was allowed to live as a new person, apparently for my own safety. What the hell's a new name then? I tried to contact the other two survivors, Ethan and Mia. They saved my life after all. I wanted to at least thank them, but they'd completely disappeared. I know that an organization knows where they are, so I decided to investigate the BSAA. Okay, well that's a rabbit hole to go down, if anything. The Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance, a counter-bioterrorism organization sanctioned by the United Nations. It was formed to combat the rise in bioterrorism after the collapse of Umbrella Pharmaceuticals. They've combated terrorism across the world, including China and Europe, and are highly regarded as paraterrorist police. The BSA finally intervened in the Baker incident and were the ones that saved Ethan, Mira, and I. Thanks to the detainment in their facility, I have a pretty good idea who their members are. I was very, very persuasive when it came to asking them about the organization's top secret documents. The topic I was most interested in was of course the Baker incident. I wanted to know the truth of the BSA was hiding. Chapter 3: The Hidden Truth. On the heater briefly. Okay, the inspector. Secret meeting between the Sheriff International Organization. One of our reporters has unearthed evidence of that a secret meeting happened between Dolby Sheriff Coleridge and an international organization known as the BSAA. Many have voiced their concerns around the legitimacy of the sheriff's office statement that the incident at the Baker estate was caused by a toxic gas leak. Inspector suspects that there might be maybe more to the story, and the sheriff's office and the BSA are covering something up. We reached out to the sheriff's office, but they refused to give a statement. Ed McClintock must be an editor. Ah, yes, the North America branch. BSA's department final report on Baker incident. The following details to the investigation to a biological disaster in Dolby, Louisiana, also known as the Baker incident. This document is for employers of Class B clearance above. So basically, every member of the founding members and specialists can access this at their goddamn leisure, including Rebecca. Fair enough. If they can't, then what the hell's going on over there? We've concluded that the Baker incident was caused by accidental contamination for a prototype weapon known as Evelyn. The residents of the Baker household were contaminated by a mold-like pathogen, mutamycete. Evelyn was capable of rapidly producing this mold and has enabled her to control these infected both mentally and physically. The Baker family were not the only victims. Evelyn manipulated the Bakers into kidnapping dozens of people. These victims were infected and they mutated into monstrous creatures called the Molded. Or Molded. Evelyn was originally created in a Munich research facility. Oh, in Germany, okay. By the International Crime Syndicate, the Connections. BSA dispatched a team to destroy Evelyn. The mission, however, was not successful and Evelyn escaped. Okay, so when they went to attack her, they found out about or discovered it, and that's where Mia and I believe his name was Alan or Rickman, whatever his name, Rick. I think it was Alan Rickman. Could be wrong. I'm sure someone will remind me in the comments. Of the guy who was with Mia on the ship. There were people who members of the connections that were tasked to escort Evelyn. Oh, excuse me. Ella was then transferred to America by the connections via ship along with the caretaker, Mia Winters. However, Evelyn managed to escape during transport. She murdered most of the ship's crew and destroyed the ship. We believe she then abandoned the vessel that washed up in the bayou near the Baker residence. The aforementioned operation to eliminate Evelyn was BSA's failing. We cannot deny that this is that as it results in Evelyn. We cannot deny that it has resulted in Evelyn infecting innocent civilians. Okay. We cannot deny that as a result. Right, gotcha. BSA will have to take responsibility should these events ever come to light. God, they've been like the bloody was it FBC or FSB or whatever it's called, that basically did their own goddamn cover up. I'm pretty sure they were the pretense to BSA, if I recall correctly. From Revelations and going back that far, I think they did their own bloody cover up. My God. As such, we advise that our cover story is fair to the media. The BSA's involvement is kept quiet. Wow, so what? Blue Umbrella takes the fall? Okay, in the report. E-Series Mutamycete Analysis Report. Biological analysis on the E-Series Mutamycete, henceforth referred to as Mutamycete, recovered from the Baker residence. Mutamycete has similar characteristics to Cladosporium black mold, and has incredibly high reproductive properties. It acts like a parasite, infecting the cells and rewriting the DNA of its host. Furthermore, when it combines with other bacteria, it creates its own muscle tissue, brain, and nervous system. As such, an organism infected with the mutamycete transforms into a type of undead monster. And a report. That's a bit obvious. Bioweapon report file. A human biological weapon constructed through the implantation of mutamycete into a human embryo has the ability to affect a fungal network and control its host through brainwave signals. Evelyn was driven by natural instinct to create a family, and infected victims she controlled were a surrogate family. However, due to an innate defect in her chromosomes, Evelyn's cells reproduce at an accelerated rate, causing her to age rapidly and then die. In a report. Connections report. Okay. The Connections is a crime syndicate with no base of operations. Oh, so just got basically a bunch of members who do things all around the world. Fair enough. Their organizational structure is unknown. However, we are aware of their actions on a global scale. In recent years, they have been particularly active in Eastern Europe. No shit. Most of our activities appear to revolve around the creation and selling of bioweapons. Evelyn was one of their products. Reliable sources confirm that the criminal organization was founded by Brandon Bailey. Why does that name sound familiar? Bailey is a shrewd man, was once the right-hand man of Spencer, CEO and president of Umbrella Corporation. His status and location unknown. Bailey and Spencer became estranged due to differing visions, and Bailey used the connections he made working as director of the Umbrella Africa Research Facility to branch off and found the crime syndicate. Oh, so he would know all about Progenitor. Wow. Okay, interesting. Which then saying off to the C, the T, the G. I mean, technically, indirectly, it led to what Glenn Aries referred to as the A series. Okay, interesting. Huh. Progenitor truly started it all. My God, quite literally. Huh. So Brandon Bailey, who's director of that, I mean, he had some seriously high-level clearance, Brandon Bailey, so he had access to all information, so it does actually make quite a lot of sense. If he founded that, so he would probably have access to everything from Ada Wong to Spencer, Tricell. I mean, he probably led Tricell in that sense, so when that fell through, Oh! So I bet Bailey and Glen Aries were working together because, as far as assuming the RE wiki is accurate in that sense, regard, because Tricell's ideas and the research style and study were kind of incorporated and learned by Glen Aries, so and use that to make the referred to as A series. So if that connection through Tricell right there and their workings, or at least that stove had that methodology, that would connect Bailey and Glenn. Which then Maria pull that charge, that money, what's left over. So Maria Gomez, if that works out as part of the connections, with assuming Heisenberg was part of the connections, that means he was part of that because he knew about BSA would come, I'm assuming from that wall picture on wall that said to him BSA come. So Ada Wong's still a mystery, but she's known to turn on whichever side she thinks is most profitable and just convenient for her, which is typical. Alex Wesker is an unknown element. She's young, but if we're talking about 18 years, she's grown up enough. Unless they go to final, she seeks them out, which is entirely possible. Unless Alex Wesker was already with the connections in her own style, so she's just reaching out to them again to reevaluate the status, which is possible. I'm just thinking of players in the current RE law field of RE law and see who matches up. Okay. The organization's main goal appears to simply be commercial gain. Further investigation are in progress. Okay, so that would make sense for Alex being able to feed off the research. Glen Aries pull for wealth, so it means Maria has access to wealth. Okay, that would, and if that is wealth for commercial gain, they paid off Heisenberg quite possibly to get an army. Okay, for that would, if that connection is true, that would make a lot of sense. According to the BSA's top secret documents, the Baker incident, as I know it, was just another statistical blip to be recorded. The fateful night when the tanker washed up in the bayou, Jack took the little girl from the shipwreck into our home. Then she turned everyone crazy, made us into monsters. BSA knew this when they manipulated the meter and covered up the whole thing up. An easy thing to do for an organization with direct backing from the United Nations. True. They couldn't let anyone know it was them who let Evelyn, the cause of all this, escape. Oh, bloody political cover-up, why don't you? Jesus. I continued to investigate and finally caught wind of Ethan Mears' location. Okay. Chapter 4. Where the Winters are. BSA Investigations Department. Transcript of interview of Ethan Winters. Audio. Should it begin then? Please say your name and occupation. Ethan. Ethan Winters. I'm a systems engineer. How many times do you have to do this? When are you going to let us go? Also, systems engineer. I've heard that somewhere, but I honestly didn't know where they got that from, so this makes a lot of sense actually now. Our interviews until now have been necessary to conclude if you had any ulterior motives. Now we understand you were just an innocent victim in this whole incident. So, you gonna let us go? Yes, but we have one condition. What's that? We'd like you and your wife to remain under our supervision. In exchange, we'd like to provide you with a new home and new country. What are you saying? You want us to take on new identities? Wait, a new country? You want us to move to another country? To a lovely country in Eastern Europe, to be precise. Europe? You gotta be kidding! Why the hell would we? You are both witnesses to what happened. There is a certain criminal organization who is looking for you. We are doing this for your protection. Think of it more as like witness protection. I suppose for what it's worth, moving them out the country quite literally and I mean, if they don't know how much, if the BSA truly has no idea who is member of the connections, or unless they're not revealing that yet, but they don't know where they operate, who all the members are, if they wanted to tuck someone away, Eastern Europe can't be a perfect location. It's nowhere near your major players like France, Spain, Germany, right? It's like really out the way. I mean, it kind of makes sense. I mean, literal witness protection in a whole different continent, which, in that sense, I understand what they did, but bit of a drastic move, however you look at it. But all the way to Europe? Without any say? You can forget everything you experienced here. Start a new life. It's better for you. It's better for the both of you that way. There's no way we can forget everything that happened. I want to talk to Mir about. I want to talk to Mir about this. Let me talk to Mia. Audio ends. BSA Investigations Department. And, okay, Mia. According to our examinations, you are mostly free of the mold now, Mia. Did you tell him about my past? So he still doesn't know. I suppose she didn't want him to crack the complete shit at her, so kind of understand that. No. As a sign of appreciation for your cooperation, BSA has not divulged your involvement with the connections. I just want to return to a normal life with Ethan. To forget everything. Huh. Ethan and Mira are in Europe. I was ecstatic that I finally had a clue into their whereabouts. However, that is when my investigation hit a brick wall. BSA security is tight, even with some acquaintances helping me out, which I'm assuming then is probably. I mean, if we're talking about the aftermath, I'm going to assume that probably people like Rebecca, perhaps Leon, and Chris might have been involved. I mean, talking about acquaintances, so I mean, she's reaching out directly to Chris. I'm assuming, like, Rebecca's got that sort of soft spot where, as much as she can stick to the mission, she's very compassionate. Like, if she realizes someone actually could use some help, she will help them out as best she can. Like, she's not heartless, Rebecca, by any means. I mean, she's stern, slams her foot down when she needs to, but she's got a good heart when she needs it. Very compassionate. I can see, especially when it comes to all these testing, like their research consultancy, all that, perfect position. And if they're dragging Leon across for security measures, he's just like, fine, just let me do my thing. I'll just sit around holding my holding my firearm, and I'll just, I've got it here. If you need me, just call me. I'll just be over here. And Rebecca's like, I am not letting you drink. It's like, okay, I understand it. Don't you? I get it, Rebecca. I get it. I can just sort of see that conversation happening there between them, I'm just theorizing that sort of conversation's all happening. I'm pretty sure Rebecca would do that to Leon. Like, you even touch that bottle, I am going to smack you. Like, okay. I'm probably not exaggerating, but you get my point. Damn. No one knew the Winter's exact location, which makes sense when you consider international criminal syndicates after. Yeah, well, no kidding. 2 years passed and no progress. I ended up working as a rookie reporter for a small newspaper in New Orleans. The Baker incident has all but vanished from people's minds. Then, one day, a letter arrived at my tiny apartment. It was from none other than Mia Winters herself. Wow. Okay, you know what? When this one here. just because the next one is I'm almost surely going to be the final. I can talk about my final thoughts and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, that's be good. So got 20 more pages. Going to go through those. Yeah, my final thoughts. So yeah, I'll see you next time.